Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derbies, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, host of May Mania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast. Excited to have you along for the ride with us this evening. It's going to be a fun one. We've got Steve Terlow joining us here in just a few minutes to talk a little bit about what's happening out in Iowa, giving us an update on the Terlouw Memorial, Oskaloosa show, what's happening with Lunatic Promotions, some clarifications and changes and stuff that are on deck for all of us that are looking forward to the action that's happening out there in Iowa. Brian, he's joining us remotely tonight, juggling a couple different things going on in the Brian Tompkins world. So at least able to pull away for a few minutes and join us here via remote. It's been a crazy couple days here. This is episode number 337. Thinking of everybody that is out there in Facebook land. Happy New Year. Appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out with us here tonight. Brian, you've been seeing it too. There's a lot of loss. There's a lot of good. It's a tough time of year, and the couple of people that I talk to about this type of thing, they say, well, it's a product of getting older. You're going to see your friends that have family members pass away, and you're going to have friends that pass away and stuff. And I don't know. It just seems like it's just happening at an accelerated rate all across the board.
Yeah, I've always heard. My parents told me when I was young, in your 20s you're going to weddings, and in your 40s and 50s you're going to funerals. Unfortunately, that's proven to be pretty true. And I think the one bad thing about social media is we all develop friendships. We all develop pretty close acquaintances, and when they lose somebody, we feel our loss. And in return, when we lose somebody, they feel our loss. So, it's great to be there to support each other. I don't know. It's, loss is part of life, I guess. So there's not anything we can really do about it. I went back to work for the first time in, 6, 7, 8 years. So, we don't have any inmates that are sick, but, we got guys, we have officers that have been in contact. So we're all on a home to work quarantine, basically, because we're sacrificial lambs and they need us. So, I haven't, I just didn't want to take the chance. So hopefully stuff will slow down soon and I can get back to the studio. But for right now, this is what we're going to go through.
Right on. Marcelo Benjamin checking in, Alex Vasco in the live chat, Eddie Chick popping in the live chat, Mark Estep, man, it is busy tonight, John Alexander in there, Christy Germain, Justin Frericks, some of the crazy Iowans checking in. Everybody's really interested in the content that we got tonight. So I guess it's just easiest and call it lazy or whatever it might be. Our thoughts out to everybody who's suffering some loss as we entered in the new year. 2021 was looming out there as this beacon of hope, as it were, that things were hopefully going to change. And while we all knew that it wasn't a magic wand, that all of a sudden we were going to tear off a calendar square and find so much good just immediately upon us, there was a lot of optimism. Some folks are heading into 2021 short of that. So we're thinking of you. We've seen your posts. We feel your pain. We share that, and we're certainly thinking of all of you guys that are close to the crash course. Some happier news. Devin Germain somehow survived for another year. I think that's one of the benefits of COVID. His hard driving style has allowed him to see the age of 29 now. So that so he had the year off. And Steve Layden, he also had a birthday here since the last time we were on the air. So happy birthday out to those guys. There was something else I wanted to hit on, but I'm blanking on that. Ed Brewster had a little bit of a scare. I'm anxiously hoping to see that he pops in the live chat tonight. He is battling a little bit of an infection issue. He was up moving around a little bit a couple days ago, so we're certainly pulling for Ed for him to get to enjoy a couple of his goals that he still has left to accomplish here in 2021 as well. Hopefully Ed makes it into the live chat. Christy just mentioned that he made it to the ripe old age of 29. So yeah, happy birthday to Devin. I saw Reg Bono was hanging out, and he had a little bit He was hanging out in the garage and had a little bit of snow, and if nothing else, 2020 has given him the opportunity to enjoy the whiskey deck a little bit, and that's all gone now because the winter weather has come in. But still finding the means to get out there and post some cool pictures. So make sure you follow along, Mr. 47, the Grand Wizard of Demolition Derby, if you will. And it's been a bit of a crazy week, bringing in the new year and getting everything ready. Mostly tied just to the back to school stuff. Hopefully you guys have all had good weeks and everything like that. Dylan Goodwin, happy birthday to him. So any final openings that we wanted to hit on along those lines before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we got lined up?
No, I think we're pretty good. Congratulations to the Bills fans. They looked pretty awesome this weekend. So congratulations to all you Bills fans out there. I don't know if you were going to mention the hangover with a double shot at Land of Legends Raceway. I think they had 180 cars for that enduro.
183. 6-cylinder and 4-cylinder, two separate divisions. Austin Susie coming away with the win, I believe, in the 4-cylinder class. And then I think Ryan won the 6-cylinder class. Cole. I'm sorry, Cole got a win over there. So that was pretty good for them. Lee Sager ended up going down to Penn Can and did basically the same thing at Penn Can Speedway. A bunch of the local guys took a crack at what was happening up here at Land of Legends Raceway. So it was a good move. That Hangover gets a double shot. It's got some roots way back to Ransomville Speedway. Yucca Rome had that for a while. I think they had it for a season or two, and now it's moved over to Land of Legends. Basically, it follows wherever Tanner Robinson goes, and it's always an awesome time. But it's really entertaining. You look at all the post messages from the Demolition Derby guys who finally got a taste of what real clay and wet scenarios is like.
Yeah, that was presented by Eldridge Sons Scrap. I think they each had a car in each class. I saw some pictures, and it definitely looked a little on the heavy side. Kind of looked like warm-ups from the 90s with the big blocks.
Yeah, right.
It looked like a lot of fun. We talked about going out, but it just ended up not being in the car. I wasn't going to run. I just wanted to watch. It ended up not being in the cards, so they look like they had a lot of fun. 180 some cars is pretty impressive. So hopefully we can get some more motorsports action in.
And hopefully all the cars that were stolen or mistaken or whatever the situation might be are found and returned to the rightful owners.
Yeah, I saw today Jamie Eldridge posted. I think everything has been straightened out from the way I was reading it. So everything's good there. I know Tim Ellison was missing a car, and then a couple other guys were some weird went on with the car. So the way I read it today, everything looked good. So onward and upward.
For sure. Alex Vasco just clicked off 20,000 subscribers on his YouTube page, so that's cool.
Cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice deal. Pretty nice deal for him. Steve Terlow, the man of the hour. Man, welcome to the show again. Good to have you on. Hopefully everything's going well for you out there.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a couple messages about some of the stuff that's happening for 2021. Some folks that were making mention of, one of the themes of the last couple of shows is how it's a little bit tough to plan for 2021 because we don't know what we're going to have, and it's a little tough for folks to put some schedules together. And we were reminded that you guys have already released dates and are already looking forward to a busy schedule out there in Iowa with Lunatic. And I just wanted to kind of touch base and see how everything was going out there. I know there's been some clarifications to the team show. You've already got some other dates and rule books and put out there, so I just kind of wanted to first and foremost, how's everything going? How's planning going for 2021?
Well, it's going. It's starting to come around. I somehow got put in charge of our basketball tournaments here in town, too. So I've been planning those, and we had one in December, and now we got one in 2 weeks where we got 100 and some teams coming. So it's been busy, and then trying to get all the rules done. And I know guys want to get started on their cars. So, but it's got to be easier than last year. Last year we didn't even know until, what was it, 10 days before the show that we could actually have people in the stands or any of that.
Right.
So that was a little nerve-wracking.
Now, there was no point at which you were looking, at least for the Draeger Memorial Derby, the two-man team show, that you were not going to be able to have the Derby. The question was just the fans, right?
Yep. The fairgrounds down there, they're great to work with, and they wanted to have it, in any way we could. Well, our governor came out in May that we could have 10 people per car in the pits.
Sure.
So that gets you quite a few, if you have 150 cars or whatever. And then we're going to consider Power Wheels a car. So if a person wanted to bring Power Wheels, there's 10 more people.
Right.
There's ways around stuff. You just kind of got to look in the gray area, kind of like the rules. And, I think us Derby people are about the best at doing that. So.
Oh, goodness.
Well, you ended up with 200 cars.
Yeah, no, it was this past year was a great show. It was, I've been putting on derbies now since '01, and that was probably definitely one of the top 5 of all time that I've seen.
Yeah.
So it was great. And, we kind of changed the name a little bit. We still never want to forget about T-Bone, of course. But my head inspector there, who'd been with me since 2001, he'd passed there in September, and so that was Chad. Mm-hmm. And we raised enough money and everything that we paid for his whole stone and everything as his gravesite. So I was really, really happy about that. But now if they'd ever get it done and get it put up, that's another story.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then, I don't know if we just call it the Memorial Derby, because now this year, just last month, Eric Folan passed away at 36, and he ran Oski all the time. He'd come to quite a few of our shows, and it's he has kids, and you're just too young. Chad was 49, and that's too young, and Eric was 36, which is too young, way too young.
Sure.
So, but yeah, it's definitely, you guys were talking about people passing away, and it definitely, my dad passed in February, and it's definitely put you in a whole new light of how to live life and all that, so.
Yep.
Yeah, it certainly does give you a different perspective on things, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And there's no point in, people want to have grudges and stuff, especially us derby drivers or whatever. But, have your grudges out on the track and then just leave it, I always say, leave it out there and come drink a beer.
Right on.
That's what a lot of people, Oski, we haven't hardly had any drama down there for a long time. Every once in a while, of course, that's derbies, but, everybody's they get along great afterwards and drink beer and have a good time, and that's what it's about. It is a derby family.
In terms of, that's really the crown jewel event on the Lunatic calendar. Is there anything new or changing for this year? I know when we traded some messages yesterday, there was some effort put into clarifying things, but is that going to make any cars no longer clear to participate? Is that going to change anything?
Oh, well, and I told everybody, I try, I'm a straight shooter. Last year in the drivers' meeting, I mean, I don't know how I got the rules for our limited weld. Well, I know what happened. I'd taken an old set from one time and then combined them with another set, and I don't know what happened, but some of the stuff we didn't let go the year before in the limited weld. Somehow it got put in the rules that you could do it.
Oh.
And I know part of it was, if I would have put them out there, Chad would have been all over my ass going, "What are you putting this stuff in there, you dumbass?" So not having him to do it, because Jeff, who took over for him, he didn't help that previous year at Oski. So he goes, "I didn't know what you guys had allowed and didn't allow." And so that was part of the problem. And then my dad was in the hospital from basically December till he passed in February. So I was up there running back and forth, and I just had a lot on my plate, and I just told guys that, and I told them the rules for the limited weld would be cut back. Somehow, like, we allowed a plate to go clear back to your A-arm from your front bumper. Well, it should have only been 14 inches, and, stock springs in your front pockets and all that kind of stuff. And, I mean, it's just, it was a bunch of little things, but we got them toned back a little bit this year. And so that's going to be our main show, is the 2-man limited weld teams, and then we have our modified class, which it's not an outlaw, but it's your Blizzard Bash, kind of hard car rules. We are allowing 2 kickers this year off your front dash bar, your front frame there, in that class, but. It's not an outlaw class, but that one's going to be a one and done. Then we'll have an 80 and newer for the beginners. Again, just a bone stock. And I got to clarify a couple of those rules too, but they should be. They're pretty bone stock, and so that'll be a one and done. And then we'll have our stock compacts, and the limited weld compacts will be the main show for the compacts. We had quite a few teams for that last year, so. But, yeah, it'll always be a good show. I mean, I've never been disappointed in an Oski show where it's like, man, nobody hit or, everybody sandbagged. I mean, that's never a problem down in Oski.
Right.
So.
No, that show definitely has a reputation as a very hard-hitting show.
Yep. There's very few sandbaggers that come, and if they do, you better turn it on a little bit at least.
Yeah, they kind of police themselves down there. They definitely get after it.
Oh yeah, yep. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, it's just this year I actually had a little bit more time to sit down and read through stuff, and of course, rules are never perfect. I mean, somebody's always going to find the gray area through that. So,
somebody's always going to complain. It doesn't matter what the rules are. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like them.
Oh yeah. Well, what I always love is, well, you let us do that last year. No, okay, this isn't last year.
Yep.
It's the new year. That's why we changed that rule.
Yeah, it's. I've heard that a lot in special lines. Well, we could do it last year, right? But there's new rules put out, and it's your responsibility to read the rules. And if it's changed, then you got to know that in your build, and you can't say, "Well, what about?" I mean, it just. But that's Derby. I mean, guys, they definitely push the gray areas. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the best one is somebody will come up in line and you'll say, "Well, you got to cut this or cut that." Well, I bought it that way. Okay. So that just makes it legal. Well, I bought it that way. Yep.
Yeah, we had that happen once with some mud that magically hardened and turned into concrete and painted itself black. But yeah, it's funny when you hear about stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Another one of my favorites from up here at home was when the tires were too heavy, but we just went out in the pits and blew some donuts and put some mud on and went back through tech hoping it would work.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so no, we got same crew back as last year. Michael Zier's going to come help inspect again, and so he does a really good job. And Stan Stockwell does compacts, and Jeff Fortune from Chad's hometown up in Webster City, he does the full size stuff too. So those guys do a great job, and it's just like anybody. You can't do it without a team.
Yeah, it's good to keep continuity in your inspection.
Yeah.
That's kind of a make or break thing for shows, is having an inspection team that everybody feels comfortable with, and they know that there's some give and take, and that's real important.
Yeah, and that was out of all the hundreds of derbies I put on since '01, I mean, there was only 2 that I can ever think of that Chad wasn't there. And that's just because we had 2 derbies the same night, so he went one place and I went the other. But other than that, I mean, there was just no, we knew what each other was thinking, and if one of them said, well, you got to cut that or whatever, then we always stood by each other. So that's a lot of it. So.
Steve, I had a question in the live chat. Is Tom coming back?
Who said that? Probably Kevin?
Candace was asking.
Oh, Candace. No, Tom just doesn't believe in team driving at a team show, so.
Well, that does put you in a particular impasse, doesn't it?
I mean, this team show, you kind of are allowed to team drive. But, yeah.
Interesting. So when you start down a path like this, it's one thing to stand at the drivers' meeting a year removed from when the news is actually going to come out and say, hey, next year the rules are going to be different. Did you get any of those? Did you get into any of those specifics, such as with the plate going back on the frame or with the different type of springs in the front? Because while those aren't major changes necessarily, it does change the dynamic of what the car is going to do. It changes the predictability. It changes a lot of those things. So when you went back through those rules and clarified and reestablished what you wanted the limited well division to be, was there a conversation or a meeting or anything had with the drivers, or was it easier to just say, look, I run Lunatic, this is what I want these rules to be, this is what it was 2-3 years ago, closer in line with that, and just write the rules and put them out there and let the cards fall where they fall?
No, I always listen to what the drivers have, but you also have to take into consideration everybody's opinion, and I kind of look at the overall picture, not just what one guy or one group or whoever wants, because you just can't do that. I mean, you got to look at the overall picture, and I mean, it's like last year. I don't know how I missed. Your dash bar had to be 6 inches behind your DP.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somehow, I know it was in there the year before, but again, somehow I missed it last year. So that was one rule we had to put in. And then your bumper bracket could be 14 inches instead of all the way back to your A-arm.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll shorten up the bumper brackets there. We're not going to allow the heavy-duty springs in the front or to shove pipe up in the front spring pockets. That's a couple of the major changes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, I missed it last year, and I'll be the first to tell you that. So,
you're talking about some of the changes in the team, and Brian made the point about continuity and making sure that everybody's on the same page, and something just as simple as being allowed to team drive at a team show. When you start putting together a rule package like this that has a little bit of it's going to have a bit of impact on the way people are building their cars, and could even affect the way particular groups choose what car they're going to bring. Is there a responsibility? You've been doing derbies since 2001. The sport's obviously changed quite a bit. So, I mean, how much diligence do you put on yourself to keep up with what's happening in the derby world as a whole? That cat and mouse game where the drivers are always trying to find a way around the rules and trying to find a way to exploit those gray areas, to try and yourself, in addition to your lead tech inspector, to keep up on what's happening in the sport and be up to speed on those changes, so that when you do that rewrite and when you do dial things back to where you want the rules to be, you don't inadvertently open yourself up to allowing something else to be exploited.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with derbies. You allow them to do one thing, and I've seen the cycle, gosh, 2 or 3 times now. Where people don't want to spend time welding, so they want basically kind of a stock build. Well, then the next year, we want to be able to do this and this and this.
Yep.
Okay. So then you're at your limited weld, and then 2-3 years later, you're basically back to your mod class where everybody wants to weld stuff. And,
yep.
And then I like to see things every way possible. I can see being the stock build where, hey, I'm going to spend 20, 30 hours on a car, go out there, do whatever I can to it for a stock build, and there you go. Mm-hmm. Then, you're only probably going to run that car once, maybe twice. Then I can see on the modified side, or if you let them weld, you can run that car the whole summer, go to all the shows, don't have to worry about nothing, add a couple plates every now and then. And, but then people bitch, well, it takes, 6 months to build a car. So, I mean, it's just a cycle, and that's derby, and that's part of the whole sport of it. One year we'll have 20, 80 and newer, no weld, and then you can have the same class the next year and you'll get 5.
Right. And
then you allow old iron in that class, just making it a stock, open, no Imperials or nothing, but stock, let the older cars in too. Well, then you'll have 10 of those, and then the next year you'll have 20, you just don't know. And every year is different, and if I could guess what would work the best, and you just got to adapt and do what you think, and you got to, just the sport of how far it's come. I remember, rear ends were all stock back in the day, and then when the Mosier 33 splines came out, oh my gosh, that was the thing to get and run, and good gosh, that was what, 05 or so?
Right.
No, 03 was the Mosiers, and then, now you got freaking huge ass rear ends that I don't know how they'd ever break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just everything evolves.
Yeah, I remember when those Mosiers first showed up, and the first thing you do when you get a set of Mosiers, you take them out of the box and get the grinder out so that you can get that decal off the side.
Yeah, yep.
that way they can get through.
Stuff that damn sticker right on the end.
Yeah, get that off of there. But
Brian
and I have had a couple conversations kind of in line with what you said. One that pops out is one that we had back in 2014 leading up to the Keuka Clash. And that was a show that happened at the Yates County Fairgrounds in Panyan out here. And there's 3 things that you can always guarantee when you look at the rules in Demolition Derby. Demolition Derby drivers, they don't want what they have. They want what they can't have. And at the end of the day, they don't know what they want to begin with anyway.
Yep.
It seems like there's always that little bit more, and it ultimately a lot of times what it can come down to is they want it cut down the middle as long as they get the bigger half, right?
Oh yeah. Well, it's like the front springs, for example. Mm-hmm. You got guys that go out and they'll buy the heavy duty ski ones for whatever they are, $300 or whatever. Well, you know, a lot of guys don't have that kind of money that want to go spend that. So taking a square tube or round pipe, sticking it up in there, it's basically doing the same thing.
Yep.
But I can also see, okay, that guy's adding metal, whereas I went out and spent money and bought springs that, you know, yeah, they're heavy duty, but I'm not adding any metal. So, I mean, it's stuff like that I can see both ways.
Yep.
Because it's basically doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But one's a cheaper way to do it, and one's a more expensive way to do it.
And that's a very fine line that promoters have to walk, is that they have to encompass everybody that's going to be at the Derby. They have to encompass the guys that, you know, can outspend everybody, and they have to encompass the guys that are, you know, they're putting everything, you know, every dime they have and then some in to try to run this car and try to compete. So I mean, you got to have the rules somewhat fair for everybody. You know, I've talked to a lot of promoters who've walked that very fine line, and you know, it is, you know, like Chris touched on it. Sometimes Derby drivers are their own worst enemies. They ask for more and more and more. Then they're, oh, geez, our rules were better 5 years ago. Well, then you shouldn't have been on me for 5 years to change them. So it's a very fine line. I mean, it's one of the many jobs that a promoter has that I do not envy them for. That's not fun when you have to make decisions like that, and you know, and deal with the pros and cons afterwards. It's a tough job.
Yeah, and you know, of course, I've learned this. How many years ago? You're not going to please everybody, and either they're going to come and do it, or they're not going to come and not do it and go someplace else. I mean, you can't sit here and force. I'm not going to call people up to run, or you know, I'm not going to beg people to come. And I mean, that's not who I am. I do. I just do it, and if you're going to do it, sure, come on over, and if you're not, tough shit.
Yep, I agree.
Is there going to be a stock compact class at Washington, Iowa? I'm trying to decipher this comment here. Is there going to be a stock compact class at the Washington Fair in Iowa?
Who's that from, Dylan?
Yes.
Yeah, there will be. Hi, Dylan.
Dylan's been very busy tonight. He also told me that you need to pay him, but I wasn't really sure what that was.
That surprised me. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're getting so much interaction from that part of the country. Candace is tuned in, and she's shooting in some questions and kind of helping juggle some conversation. Nick Rose is in there now. Chad Smith, and then Dylan's in there as well. Last year in August, in the wake of everything that was happening with so many fairs that got canceled and put on hold because, you know, the fairs are still relying on the front gate, the grandstand gate, to pay for a lot of their fair events at the Demolition Derby stuff that they ended up not happening due to the gathering restrictions. You ended up putting on a second show at that was, I believe, at Iowa Speedway, August 22nd, right?
Yeah, that was in Oski again. The fair board asked if we wanted to do another one, and said sure, why not? We might as well. All these other fairs are canceling, so we kind of did an end of the summer bash right before school started, and which our school didn't start until later after that anyway, because we had that derecho come through.
Mm-hmm.
110 mile per hour winds that destroyed a whole bunch of stuff, but no, we had a second show there in Oski, and it went really well. Guys got to finish off a lot of their cars and that kind of fun stuff. So I don't know if we'll do that one again in August. I'll have to talk to the fair board and see what the schedule's like. And it's kind of hard. Some of the fairs have reached out already, but others, I don't know if they're going to kind of hold off, you know, kind of probably line up stuff and just see how the world plays out. So It sucks. I mean, that's what the fairs rely on, and especially the derbies are some of their main income. And then not to have that just had to have killed them.
Well,
So,
like Southern Iowa Speedway, if we look at that in terms of what we've got in New York, that looks like a racetrack that stands by itself. But we've often talked about Oskaloosa and the T-Bone Memorial and the Team Derby happening at the fairgrounds.
yep.
Is this a fairgrounds in the sense that it's subsidized as a county fairgrounds, subsidized by the state, or is it a racetrack which is typically privately owned? And the answer to that will tell us a lot about what you are and aren't able to do, much like we see the counties and the independent racetracks happening up here in New York and Pennsylvania.
And I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I think the fair board owns the racetrack, but I know they're two different entities.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know how it's all. I mean, not one person doesn't own the racetrack, or.
Right.
So I don't know.
We got a couple 3 tracks that are like that. Used to be, I think we probably could say used to be 4. If you count the Cuba County Fairgrounds, the county owned the fairgrounds, but then the racetrack operated independent of that, even though it was situated on the fairgrounds. Ontario County Fairgrounds up here with Land of Legends Raceway. The fair board owns the track. The Ag Society owns the track, but then they sublet it or secondary lease, however the legal jargon is on that, so that somebody can run the racetrack all the time. So we got to have a couple things happening, even though the fair couldn't happen, which was kind of interesting. I think Orange County Fair Speedway down in Middletown.
Before a derby.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had some weekly races there before the Derby, and which helped because then I could kind of plan if we couldn't have people in the stands,
Sure.
how we could get around it. But yeah, I know the Derby is probably their second biggest event there. They have Knoxville has the World of Outlaws. Mm-hmm. Well, and Monday and Tuesday night, or Sunday and Monday, I think it's Sunday and Monday now, the Outlaws and sprint car drivers all go over to Oski for the Front Row Challenge.
Right.
So that's their biggest draw, but then it's the Derby, so. But, yeah, they wanted me to do another one in October. I don't know, 3 at a place is kind of overkill, I think.
Right. How many shows has Lunatic got? Well, how many are you hoping to have on the calendar for 2021? Like you said, some of the fair boards are still in limbo at this point.
Yeah, we'll probably have at least 10.
Yeah.
So, which is plenty. I have a 9-year-old that's very active in sports and a 5-year-old that's starting to get active into them. So,
right.
My weekends are tied up, and I don't want to miss out on them guys growing up. But they also love coming with me too. So they like doing the coming and hanging out.
Is it still fun after all this time?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it wasn't last year after Chad died and everything. I thought, screw it, I'm done. But there was enough people that support you, and I couldn't give it up. I mean, like people said, Chad would have kicked my ass if I gave it up. So, yeah, and after getting through the first night down there at Oski, I mean, it's in my blood. It's, I love doing it. If I didn't, I wouldn't have done it for going on 20 years now.
There's Steve Terlow, the parent, who's got the 9-year-old and the 5-year-old, and they're getting older. They're going to be requiring more of your time. And then there's Steve Terlow, the individual carrying the torch for the T-Bone Memorial and for Chad, and now you've got another name that you're going to be adding to the memorial list of this derby. So you've got this dual obligation to juggle both, and running Lunatic has got to be just about a full-time job like any promoter that we talk to. How much longer do you think you're going to be going with this? Is it something that has a shelf life, or is this going to be going in perpetuity?
I'll do it as long as I can. I mean, if I'm physically able to, and God willing, I'll keep doing it as long as I can.
Awesome.
So I have no intention of quitting next year or any, in the next few years.
That's very
I
good to hear.
It's a family. I mean, it's just a family thing that you have your Derby family, and so I can't give it up.
20 years is a long time. I mean, if you think about it, Chris, you and I have known a few. That's a long time to promote. I mean, there's only a handful of promoters that you and I know that have been in the sport for 20 years like that. I mean, that's really an accomplishment to keep up to date with the with the ebbs and flows, and keep people happy. And I mean, that really is an accomplishment. I mean, you've seen a lot change in 20 years of the sport, and obviously every year these Oski's obviously a huge show. I mean, it's obviously you're doing something right. I mean, it's a testament to do it for 20 years.
Yeah, and like I said, I've had a great team behind me. It's just not me. It's everybody. It's the drivers around Iowa. It's the drivers that come from out of state. The friendships you've made. I mean, it's everything. And it gets old hearing people complain about stuff, but I mean, I take it with a grain of salt anymore. I mean, it's part of it. I mean, especially in today's world, everybody's going to complain about everything anymore.
Do you have a favorite complaint or a memory or an exchange that stands out to you over your time as a promoter?
There's too many. I mean, you just get the guys that, well, I'm not cutting that. I'm not cutting that. Then 5 minutes later, so they'll drive off. Okay, go load your car. We don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to waste their time. And 5 minutes later, they'll come back. Well, what do we need to cut? Same thing we told you to cut 5 minutes ago. I mean, it's not too hard.
Right.
So I don't know if they think we're just going to change our mind. But yeah, I mean, there's been so many, and it's been a wild ride.
It is funny though to see guys storm off. That's it. I'm going home. We're loading up, and 5 minutes later they come. They kind of do the walk of shame back, and all right, what exactly do I have to do? And da 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 da. And, it's entertaining to say the least.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And it's such a tightrope to walk too, because the day of the show you have to make sure that you stay hard and fast to the decisions and hard and fast to the book, and be one of those rule book promoters and stay tight to that stuff. But then after it, if something doesn't work or whatever, you got to be flexible enough to be open to those opinions and let stuff move without being a pushover. It's not an easy tightrope to walk at all.
Yeah. Nope, I'm only 42, so I got plenty of years left to go.
Excellent.
So I'm sure I'll see even more stuff in the next 10 or 15 years that evolve in this sport.
Fantastic.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of cars we're running in 15 years. I mean, back in the day, it was all Chevys and Mopars. You never even dreamt about a Ford running.
Right.
No.
And Cadillacs used to be trade bait and throwaway cars, scrapper feed, and now those are a hot car.
Yeah, you wouldn't even look at a Cadillac.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't even imagine that. Throwing away 74 front bumpers, and they got a little dent in them. I mean, you didn't even care about them back then.
Yep.
No, throw away New Yorker bumpers because you knew it'd bend the front frame too quick, and they just wanted the scrap cherry. Chrome's still shining on them, and they went to the scrap yard.
Yep.
I think we're going to see. I think what you're going to eventually, my humble opinion, is you're going to see Crown Vics and everything, from stock to the full weld like they are now. It's going to be out of necessity because I mean you're either going to have to run a metric GM or a Ford because there's not there's going to be nothing else. I mean that's there's so many of those out there. I think that's what it's going to turn into.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, as long as there's cars, guys are going to find something to smash.
Oh yeah.
Necessity breeds innovation, that's for sure. The next hot car hasn't been discovered yet.
Nope.
I mean, think about it. When we watched, Smokey and the Bandit, who would have thought that somebody would be smashing a Trans Am and a Camaro? Guys smash Camaros all the time now. So, it's crazy.
Sure is. Well, Steve, man, is there anything else that you wanted to hit on, or anything else that you wanted to get out there? The T-Bone Memorial, Chad Draeger Memorial, two-man team show, June 4th and 5th, Oskaloosa, Iowa, is the plan. Anything else you wanted to get out there?
Nope, we raised purse a little bit this year. It'll be $8,000 at least to win the two-man limited weld. And if we get a bunch more teams, I'll gladly add to the purse. Nice. So
that's pretty nice payout.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be another great show. I mean, it always is.
Fantastic.
So if you need rules or anything, or get a hold of me.
Jump online. Lunatic Promotions has all the information on Facebook. Just throw it into the search bar. It'll come right up for you. Look up Steve on Facebook. Man, I appreciate you making some time for us. Once again, Happy New Year. We appreciate you coming on, and keep in touch if anything changes or evolves, okay?
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
You bet, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
There goes Steve Terlow. A couple thoughts from Steve. Looking forward to the T-Bone Memorial, Chad Draeger Memorial, coming up June 4th and 5th, 2020. Brian, man, some interesting stuff coming out of that conversation. I don't want anybody to feel like we're picking on Derby drivers, but at the same time, if you were in that situation, I think you'd be asking the same questions and trying to make the same moves to get as much of a competitive advantage for yourself as anybody else would be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we said that from day one. You push the gray area, but it's. We've said a million times that Derby drivers can be their own worst enemy. It's just part of the game. Sometimes they get something good and they push a little farther and it turns into something not good. And it's cyclical. It goes in big cycles. So but that's one of the shows that they've from the first one they've had great turnouts. It's been a great show. So obviously he's got it figured out pretty good.
Bruce Johnson, Crash Test Dummies, they went down there, had a great time last year, saying that they're going to be back. Justin Frericks, he made the joke that no one reads the rules anyway. And Dylan Goodwin, when we said in 10, 15 years, what are we going to smashing? Dylan said Chevy Impala wagons, 1976.
I'm sure the Bronze, the Penwells, and the Leno's will also be great.
I saw Bryce posted on Facebook over the weekend that they had just picked up 2 more of them.
Yeah. Actually, they ended up with 3. They put 2 on, and then they set a third one in the middle.
I don't even think that they necessarily went and picked them up. They just went in the backyard. It was time to harvest.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, You go certain places in America, and they grow. Ohio, Whitaker Salvage Yard, they grow there. Penwells, obviously, they grow there. Bronze, the Bronze, they grow them in Ohio. So, it was harvest time, I guess.
Yep, I guess so. About that time of year. All right. So, real quick, let's jump through this stuff real quick. We were talking about drivers and promoters. TJ McCulloch, Dead Man, Derby moving into the promoter's role. Last year has another show planned for this coming spring, looking at April. Friday is going to be the first night of No Mercy online, deadmanderby.com. Friday will be the first day. Dates have yet to be finalized at this point. 3-man compact heats, 80s pro stock heats, half-ton trucks and SUVs. On Saturday will be the sequence of last chance events, plus all of the one-and-done features. Youth Compact Division, 800 to win. Imperials, 2,000 to win. Minivan, truck, SUVs, that's 1,200 to win. Full-size team, one and done. Dead Man Compact, 70s and 80s Pro Stock, that's $8,000 to win. 3-man Compact Team feature, $6,000 to win. Full-size Mercenaries, that's a one and done, $3,000 to win there online. DeadmanDerby.com. Smash It Demolition Derby, still working on finalizing the schedule there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the County Fair Convention was pushed back in Ohio due to all the COVID stuff. So still working on finalizing the likely 40-plus date schedule for Smash It Demolition Derbies. Many thanks out to everyone who supported Smash It Demolition Derbies through a challenging and unprecedented season. We cannot do this without the support of the drivers, fans, fair boards, and partners year after year. Not to mention all the folks that answer those phone calls and stand on the tech lines. With all sincerity, thank you. Online, smashitderby.com. I walked out of the house without it. Darn it, I forgot to. We got sent a copy. It worked out good because you're not here. I wasn't able to share it with you anyway. But we got sent a copy of this month's Demolition Derby Life magazine. Crash Course was featured with a couple photos and the sequence of platinum level sponsors on the Unified Point Series. So that was kind of cool to see. Had a little blurb in there about Crash Course and what we do. We appreciate getting sent that copy. And again, we got that. That's Lexi Draws that puts that together, and also got sent the thank you note about the Unified Point Series. John Shipley coming away with the win in that one. I think it was 11 wins through the course of the year. Just an incredible season for John Shipley, winning the Point Series. Stay up to date with the schedule as it comes together for 2021. 527unifiedseries.com. Jeffy's Fab Farm recognizes an industry leader in all manner of fabrication needs. You know that's where you want to go for the Ellis conversions. Before that, Jeffy got his Derby credentials just by started out making some headers for some buddies, and now he's shipping pipe out like crazy. He started throwing some numbers at me. It was mind-blowing what he was talking about, just in terms of the tonnage of material that he goes through. It was crazy. Jeffy's Fab Farm in 2020 released the solid 4-cylinder Camry engine mount, Elantra 1.8 and 2.0 displacement headers. The store offers bumper-to-bumper selection, including fuel and air parts, suspension and transmission items, steering components, pedal shifter switches, and gauges. If you need it, you can find it on the farm, jeffysfabfarm.com. Smith Metalworks is an all-purpose fabrication shop that has taken the Northeast by storm. They are all over everything. Smith Metalworks was on the side of a couple cars that I bumped into playing some video game derbies over the course of the weekend. So they are all over the place. They usually had I think they were on the side, if I'm not mistaken, they were on the side of Brett's cars when they went out there to Las Vegas, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, the big SMW logos on the side. The hallmark of their product line is the pointed and flat front bumpers and that super stock front bumper. They replicate popular factory releases. If you know what you're looking at, you'll recognize them right away. They can be stuffed to run hollow. You've got the super stock bumper, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I run long enough to test it out this year.
Other items include the Crown Vic door skids, the battery boxes, engine mounting systems, pedal combos, and shifters. The shop offers all the odds and ends, such as distributor clamps and welding centers. Be sure to ask about the GM floor liners. Online, smithmetalworks.info. Experience and passion, second to none. Eddie Chick, checking out for the night. Eddie, man, appreciate you coming and hanging out with us for a little while. That was kind of fun to have that conversation with Steve Terlow and catch up a little bit. We got a few minutes left in this episode. If there's anything that's pressing on your mind, Brian, we got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, did you? I see you were announcing a online show this weekend.
Yeah, that was one of the Realistic Derby Project shows. That was round number 5 of the Budget League.
Cool.
And that's once you get in the Budget League, you start out with $2,500 in-game cash, and then after each show, you get $1,500. They had an old iron auction for an upcoming show, basically just to help empty some of the banks and keep the money in check.
Yep.
And one of the, I think they raffled off 2 round back wagons, and one of them went for $5,200 in game cash.
so it's par for the course for
yeah, yeah. The Shockers went for like $2,000, and some of the old sedans went for silly money. It was up over $3,000.
That's awesome.
It was really cool, and that was mostly a stock derby. It was supposed to be at a new facility in Kentucky. Unfortunately, there's some issues with the game itself, not the mod. The game and texture issues weren't saving. It was just making everything bright orange. So we ended up going back to the virtual Griggs County Fairgrounds in Cooperstown, North Dakota. It's the hometown of Jesse Meyer, the guy that created the RDP mod itself. and got to run up there. That was fun. And then Friday night, I got together with New Year's Day, I got together with Cody Rates, and we went into a server for a 2-man team show and got second place in that.
Nice.
Wasn't
Nice. Yeah, we were the show that we went to in Kentucky. That was a very nice facility. I liked how it was set up. It was on hills on both sides, and you could sit up and see good. And it was a nice facility.
That was Owenston, Kentucky, right?
Yeah,
Owenston. Yeah.
That was one. Something else I was going to ask you. 7,700 views on that. So congratulations for that. You definitely have people interested in checking that stuff out. That's pretty awesome.
Started to figure out a little bit more of this cross-posting stuff too. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to align a little bit with some of these other servers and places that are out there. That without saturating the market, we'd like to get together with some of the hosts that are strong hosts that run real efficient shows. Not even necessarily that we have to be involved with directly, but just that it seems like that content is generating interest, and we can cross post. That show was carried simultaneously on the Crash Course page and on the Realistic Derby Project page, which was kind of cool.
Cool. Yeah, it was a good time. So that's cool.
Yep, you got to fine tune a few things. I'm using the same streamer that we use when we're out in the field, but I'm using the computer and bypassing the soundboard itself. Mm-hmm. And the setup that I have for it has 3 screens. So I've got the screen in front of me and then 2 auxiliary screens. You know what we have here, where we've got the 2 screens. I just have a third one.
Yeah.
But in this, I'm pulling the audio from the computer as it sits. But each of the monitors has speakers, and I'm still trying to figure out how to dial it in without having to run the soundboard. It seemed to be okay, but I think I might have accidentally messed up the microphone towards the end of the show. But it wasn't a huge sponsored show. It wasn't a big sponsored deal, so Jesse said he wasn't going to fire me over it.
Well, that's a good thing.
But yeah, it is a lot of fun, and we've got stuff. There's these little flickers of normal starting to come back. I saw a post from Impact Motorsports. They've got a bunch of announcements about the sequence of shows they're going to have at Humberstone. There's a schedule coming together for Full Throttle Promotions up in Minnesota. There's these little things that start looking like everything's coming back online little by little. I just hope that it doesn't get derailed with some of these other crazy things. I mean, the infection curve is basically a vertical line right now in England, and hopefully the measures that they're putting in place to try to contain things, they can keep it, but it's already been found in the United States, and we may find out that that's always been there all along. When you look at the way different people have been affected in different ways with different degrees of severity, it could be that there's been a couple different infections going around since the beginning. Who knows?
Yeah, it's like I said, this is just such a big unknown. There isn't a gold standard to, okay, this is the one way to test, and this is 100% effective testing. It's okay. This one works 80%, and this one's 65%, and this one takes 3 days, and this one's, I don't know. I hope we can get a handle on it.
I learned something about myself this weekend that I was going to bring up back when you brought it up initially at the beginning of the show, but I want to put it out there. I've been a Packers fan since the 90s. I've been a fan of them since the mid-90s, and I followed the Bills pretty closely before that, and just sort of gravitated away from what they were doing, and liked what Brett Favre had going on, and Sterling Sharp was the first jersey that I ever owned. And now I feel like I'm dating myself, because there's probably some people that are watching that are so young they don't even know who Sterling Sharp is, but we'll let that go for a minute. I did not have the feeling of imminent doom or imminent stress or pressure watching the Packers game against the Bears, where it's like, man, I hope somebody doesn't get hurt. If they get hurt, it's over. It's just sort of this like, all right, throw another long pass to Devontae Adams and call it good. When I was watching that Bills game, every time somebody got hit, every time somebody caught a pass, every time something happened, I'm like, just make sure that it hurt. Make sure that it hurt. The stress level with now that I've officially married back into this Bills Mafia thing, the stress level is really high. I don't know if I can take it.
It's fun when you can buy into a team like that. We for better or for worse, my wife and sons and I are all Giants fans, so we hung out yesterday together and watched the Giants game. And though we didn't win many games, it's always a great season when you can end it by beating Dallas, because who doesn't hate Dallas? I mean, let's be honest. So it was great to see that. We hung out and it was fun. But no, I mean, it's, Bills fans have suffered a long time, and they deserve it. They're pretty famous. The Bills Mafia is pretty famous and amazing. I mean, when Josh Allen's grandmother passed, I mean, they raised, I don't know, it was big money donated by
$720,000, and another investor in Buffalo, when they played the Patriots, made the final donation to push it to $1 million.
Wow, that's amazing. So I mean, that's it's fun to watch. I mean, they're a young team, young coaching staff. I think it was, I can't remember, right before Christmas, right before New Year. It must have been right before Christmas. They were coming off the field, and the players themselves got in a snowball fight. Mm-hmm. Now, who would think that, these big, tough, angry football players, but I mean, they were kids, you know what I mean, just having a good time. And who was on the phone taping it but the owner of the team? Right. He happened to be walking by, and so I mean, it's cool. It's cool to see the teams that are succeeding do it. It's winning a championship in football is like no other. I was blessed to do that a bunch of times with Bath when I was down there helping out. It's just one of those things, man. You win a championship, and it's, I can't imagine what it feels like at that level. I know what it feels like at a basic level, but and now everybody's got a chance. So personally, I have the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I'm taking the Chiefs just because they have the experience, but very, very easily Buffalo could end up in the big show.
I remember the Red Sox run to the championship after when they broke the curse. And it was just a bunch of guys having fun, kind of the same mentality as what the Bills have now.
Yep.
And it is a lot of fun to watch. I saw the Jets, and I want to say, was it the Jaguars? Might have been the Jaguars had put in the request to interview Dable for head coaching jobs.
Yeah. Which
would be a big loss, but we'll close the door, open a window. I hope. My wife keeps saying that he's gone. I said, if he's a Buffalo guy, there's always the chance that he will be content to stay where he's at.
Who was that for? The coordinator?
Yeah, offensive coordinator.
Yeah. It's my youngest just came down before we got on air and said that the Jets have requested to talk to the Giants defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So that makes me a little anxious because our defense was above average this year. So
right.
But it's part of the game. So I mean, you gotta, it's just like over the weekend, the offensive coordinator for Alabama, he was hired by Texas. Nick Saban loses another coordinator that's leaving him. So it's part.
But there's never, but like a situation like that, there's never any fall off.
Yeah. They Saban. There's something about Saban. He doesn't matter who's there; they just keep winning.
Yep. That is for sure. Well, hopefully everybody enjoys the playoff run as it develops, and hopefully within a couple of days we'll get Brian back in the studio. We'll come back next week. We got plenty of stuff coming up as we started to sort of allude to with Impact Motorsports up in Canada, Devin and Christy with Smash It. There's a lot of things starting to come up down the line, so we'll be able to try and keep on top of it and bring it to you. If there's anything you want to hear about, send me a message. Let me know. That is going to do it for this one, number 337 in the books. We appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with us for a little while. We will see you again right back here next week. Thanks for watching.
The Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, hosts of May Mania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah, online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel, and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.